Back again. Welcome aboard another Q&A. Today's episode, I have a very special guest. Goes by the name of Oscar. Some of you guys may have seen him in Cuba Sealand's videos, Trained by JP videos, stuff of that nature. But I personally stumbled across his Instagram page by watching some of Cuba stuff, and it really lit a fire under my ass, man. I've just been watching his page for the last couple of months and just taking notes and learning a lot of stuff about like biomechanics, exercise execution, and just a lot of mindset stuff that's really been resonating very well with me. So I'm really happy to have Oscar on the channel today, and we're gonna learn a ton of stuff, man, regarding training, nutrition, posing, just some stuff on the back end of bodybuilding, along with most importantly some mindset stuff, because it's a lot deeper than that. So welcome aboard, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Do you mind giving us a little introduction, maybe something I didn't mention before?
Yeah, listen, you pretty much said it all. My name is Oscar. I reside in Manchester, in England. I'm a coach, working out of Frontline Fit Performance Center, and also a professional bodybuilder under the banner of TrainedbyJP, who I've been with since pretty much the start of my career, some 9 years of stuff. So yeah, I don't like putting myself in a box because I believe I have so much more to offer. So yeah, that's been it, to be honest. And as I go on, the hope is that I keep giving an insight about myself, and then you can then get the depth of which to put me in, if you like. So yeah, that is pretty much it. I've been bodybuilding competitively for now, where what I believe is 9 years. 9 years this year. So yes, I have come up from class to class. So I started in men's physique, where there were the board shots and that. That's when I first started trained by JP. I probably would have been somewhere in the region of 70 kilos or something. And the goal then was to just obviously take our time and then grow over a period of time into open bodybuilding, which we achieved in 2019. So actually been competing in a bodybuilding class since 2019, 2020, 21. Yeah, so 3 years. So yeah, I went from physique to muscular physique, which is a bigger version of physique. And from muscular physique, I went and competed in muscle model. And then from muscle model, I went into open bodybuilding as an amateur. I competed as an amateur for 2 years, and last year I earned my pro card and jumped into the pro ranks, and I'm currently preparing for a pro debut.
So, okay, that's interesting because I thought you were just straight up bodybuilding the whole way. So you had that physique background on you. So to everybody watching, because that was actually one of the questions near the end. It's people who don't already know, what's the big difference? Because when the average person, who's been lifting a while, when they think of men's physique and they think of bodybuilding, or let me rephrase that, as far as what I personally know, is that the poses are different. It looks like men's physique, there's a bit less emphasis on the leg. That's why they wear like the shorts. And yeah, I think bodybuilding has way more poses, and like I think the contests are just shorter, like since there's less poses. But like that's like at the base. Like what else is there besides that?
Yeah, like they're just separate classes. They're two very different classes with different criteria in posing. Like obviously, the men's physique is is a bit of like what you describe as someone you'd see in a fitness magazine, on the cover of a fitness magazine, a good-looking guy with a physique which is nice and toned, not too conditioned. And it would sort of motivate you to want to do something yourself because the physique looks achievable,
Right.
if that makes sense. Yeah, so, you know, it's not overly extreme. It's just nice, you know, healthy. It looks healthy. It's not too muscular. It's not too vascular. It's just nice and it looks achievable, like something in Men's Health magazine. With that being said, you know, the posing is just, you know, to really show the upper body aesthetics, you know, symmetry still, vertical symmetry. And really, it boils down to the taper, you know what I mean? The shoulder to hip ratio and stuff like that. But, you know, it's still a competitive class and quite a hard class, to be honest, because an achievable physiques then means when you go on stage, there's a lot of people on stage who are competitive, who also look good. So you really, really have to stand out in terms of presentation, in terms of nailing the criteria so that you're just right, nice and full, not overly dieted and stuff like that. So still, it's not like as a bodybuilder, you'd be looking down at a men's physique thinking, oh, that's easy. It's not. It's very, very competitive. Whereas in bodybuilding, the criteria is different. You're judged on muscularity, you're judged on condition more than anything. You're judged on symmetry, and you're judged on presentation. So what makes bodybuilding a bit more challenging is, as anything else, you just you need more time to build muscle. So then it becomes hard and you judge from top to bottom. Even if you judge from top to bottom, it's just the emphasis is on your upper body. But still, I had a friend who didn't get a good placing last year, and part of his feedback was to work on his calves. You know, but, you know, personally, I believe if you go in there with the absolutely stunning, undeniable physique, I think they'd overlook your calves. But still, if it comes to the wire, then they will take that into consideration. In terms of bodybuilding, then once again, you judge from your heel all the way up to your shoulder. You judge on muscularity, you're judged on your condition, and you judge on your presentation. Very, very strict about presentation as well.
So what are the poses for men's? Because I know there's I don't know the names of them, but I've seen them before. But those who don't.
So like in bodybuilding, you have your mandatories. So you say, you know, when people are stood on stage, that's called the front relaxed. The front relaxed pose, the judges will ask you to always do a quarter turn to the right. When you do a quarter turn to the right, you'll end up on your side. Then, you know, that will be like a side shot. Quarter turn to the right will then have you facing the rear, you know, just seeing the rear. And then the quarter turn to the right will have you on your side. Then they'll have like your side tricep, which then you're going to show. Then they'll have your back double biceps, lat spread, abs and thighs to finish, and then the most muscular.
Right. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of boxes. It seems like there's more boxes to check off with the.
Yeah. So that's just a mandatory. Then you've got to have like a routine put together at the end that you're going to present and do whatever you want to do as your choice of music is playing.
Okay, so on the topic of posing, what's posing like for you, for example? Like, I know
it's hard.
People, for example, they like you have certain people who have dedicated posing days, where it's like on maybe on off days they pose. You have other people who they do it maybe whatever muscle they train, pose that muscle right after for like maybe like 20 minutes. You have other people who do both. Like, what are you personally doing, or how did you become better at improving?
Like my posing isn't the best, to be honest, and over the last year it's just been a case of doing a couple of rounds in the morning and 1 to 2 rounds every morning, and then just trying to keep it sharp like that. Probably send it to my coach, then he can give me a few pointers and stuff like that. But it's like anything else, you just need practice, practice, and more practice. The more you practice, the better you get, the better you get, the more confidence you get, and confidence breeds more confidence. So it's just a game of practice, to be honest. There is no secret. Every now and then it would benefit you to see a posing coach, and then ultimately go and try and practice, come back to the posing coach, and then they would meet you at your level every time you went to see them. So, at first they'd have to teach you basics, how to hold mandatory poses. And then once you've mastered that, then possibly they'd add a few tweaks to then be able to showcase the strengths of your physique. Then after that, if you've mastered that, then you'd start putting a routine together. That would take quite a while to put together for it to come alive and for you to be able to perform it from start to finish. Because then, as you're putting a routine together, you do it in segments. You just do a little segment, maybe first 10 seconds. So say the music is 60 seconds. So you do it in 10 seconds. And you keep repeating it because you're not going to get it at first. You keep repeating that 10 seconds. Once you can do it fluently without looking at a mirror or doing anything, then boom, you add another one. And you just, based on how quick you get in things, and people can really learn first, like people who got background of dancing, background of ballet, get things very fast. But, most of us have got 2 left feet. So with tights in different places. So yeah, it just varies from one person to the next.
Let's talk about whole cutting and bulking, right? Because there's different schools of thought. Certain people like myself who, and I understand, I could respect different aspects. It's not my way. I'm personally, from what I've personally seen, a big advocate of not going too crazy on bulks. Just like, for example, maybe I'm talking about recreational lifters here. I'm not talking about like people who compete. I'm talking about like general population. Some guy who just wants to bulk up, not bulking up like let's say to like 20% body fat. And I'll give you an example like myself, right? I'm right now like 5'11", 188, cutting down to 180. And that might be my quote unquote leaner weight. And when I bulk up, I'm not gonna bulk to like 210, or like 230 like I was doing in the past, because it takes a lot of time for me to cut all the way back down for my present goals. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, I guess we could get into the whole argument of like competitors or not, but like let's just start with like general population, just like your average Joe. They in the winter bulk up a bit, summertime lean down a bit. Like, do you think they should go on these radical, or like maybe like 10 pounds and they're good and just cut back down?
Listen, everything has to be in context, and you cannot give absolutes for anything because context is key. We're different people. We have different fat distribution, like you said yourself. You're 5'11". Who's to say, 185 is your limit? You could go to 200, but your fat distribution you might be actually, your body composition might be okay at 200, but you might just hold a lot of fat on your hamstrings. Now, if that's the trade-off for you to get another 5 pounds of muscle, then for me, it makes sense. But once we start putting ceilings and absolutes, what you find is we then put ceilings to limit our progress. So for me, you just approach it based on your goals. What do you want to see at the end? You know what I mean? Your goals will determine how extreme you go. Now, I'm with you in the fact that you just don't want to get fat 100%, because there's inflammation, digestion is not right, you can't train, sleep becomes a bit skewed and stuff like that. But for me, if digestion is right, inflammation is low, stress is being balanced, performance on the gym floor is flying. If performance is flying for one, right, then the body tends to recomposition itself.
Right.
Are you with me? But if people are just eating and then going to train without putting max effort in and max intensity, then you are going to grow fat. But the more energy you expend, the more you move. And even like during bulking phases, you can still put 20 minutes of cardio a day. Now, that cardio will help with nutrient partitioning. That cardio will help you with improving cardiovascular fitness. So now, if you're at 230, when you go to the gym floor, you can get stuck into those 20 to 30 rep range on a hack squat. You know what I mean? And
Right.
be able to see them through. You can be able to really get efficient on the higher rep range, which a lot of people don't do because a lot of people aren't fit, but there's so much muscle to be picked up from the higher rep range. Everyone is good from 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 12, but between 15 and 20, if I stick you on a hack squat and I push you for 20 to 25 reps, then you get to see who's who. You know what I mean? When the ending is unknown and the distance is unknown, then you get to know who you are.
And if on top of that you're bulking and you have all this extra energy from all these calories, like you could still, you're right, you could milk it.
You're meant to train that's why you have the calories high. You're meant to train hard, get your steps, track your step count, you can do your cardio. Cardio doesn't have to be for fat loss. That cardio you do on off season is just for cardiovascular health and to improve your fitness. For you to be able to cross that over onto the gym floor and train harder.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not anti-bulking at all, man. Like.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying you are. I'm just really differentiating the uses of cardio. There is cardio now to increase, done with the intent of increasing expenditure and for fat loss. But this, I'm going on about this cardio in the off season, which has got a lot of benefits and will not allow you to get fat as a byproduct as well, because it'll increase appetite as well, so you'll be able to eat more.
100%.
It will improve nutrient partitioning so that your body is now efficient in partitioning nutrients. It will improve cardiovascular system, so you're now able to really take sets there, because sometimes you've done a set and at the end of the set, you've not hit mechanical failure through the target muscle. You've just run out of breath.
100%. It's the cardio that
lets you down.
Well, the muscle still has some in the tank, but you're just not fit enough to get there. So
yeah,
that was gonna be the next questions, man. It's like near the end about conditioning. So it's like I'm a huge on my whole channel, I'm a huge advocate of conditioning. I talk about get some of my conditioning from like strongman competitors, like this drags, sandbag carries, but like I can understand from a bodybuilder, they're also not training for that because they're not doing those events. Their goal is to look better on stage, improve muscle body composition, that type of stuff. So it's like, what does your conditioning look like?
What conditioning in terms of training?
And in terms of like cardio, like.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. Like, if we go back to what I just spoke about, like if you're, like I train a lot of rep ranges, you know what I mean? From 4 to 30.
Okay, so you say it in your conditioning, your quote unquote conditioning is like 30 rep hacks. Like that's
Yes.
okay, I
10
got you.
leg pendulum squats.
Right, I
You know
got
what I mean? 10 leg, 35 rep, 40 rep leg press. Non-stop, no stopping, no lockout.
you. I like that. I like that's
Yeah,
yeah.
very, very, very disgusting. You know what I mean? It's very, it does really challenge you massively.
But as far as like, for example, like what, like elliptical stuff like that, like air.
So like when I was preparing for my last show, I used an elliptical for cardio, but I just had a target heart rate. I was not doing like hits on it. But at some point, after leg day, I do sprints on a walk bike. So maybe 4 sets, 15-second blast, and a 45-second rest. Maybe 6 sets after training legs. So your legs are very pumped. And then you go and you channel and you go, heart rate is a goal to reach. So you have to work at a certain pace because it's so hard. Then setting a heart rate target almost sets you a goal. Because you got to remember, you just finished a weight training leg session, so your legs are very heavy. So it's very easy to just be lazy and, just spin wheels. So you have that. And on upper days, I have my battle ropes. So I do maybe 4 sets, 20 seconds. And then as you diet down, then recovery becomes it's always a priority, but you pay a bit more attention to recovery as the diet continues to get deeper. And then we have to pull these things up because they're affecting recovery. And then we just carry on training harder.
Right. Everybody watching right now, like I've received messages from you guys saying, like I've received comments like, Phil, why do you do so many of your rows chest supported, or why do you do so many of your shoulder presses seated, like a high incline, stuff like that. That a lot of that comes from watching guys like Oscar, who are like, when you're focused on like, muscle building, you're trying to take a lot of the stability out of it. We could do stability in like separate exercises, but like if I'm doing like a row, I still do freestanding rows, but I don't do all my rows freestanding. I do a lot of my rows chest supported. I do a lot of my lateral rear delt chest supported. And the reason why, just for the audience, is that if you watch Oscar's videos, it's the same kind of principle, on an even like higher level, where it's like it's training the muscle, So
Really, the thing is, the main thing, when you look at the movement, you look at stability profile. Are you with me? So yes, I have at this moment in time, I'm running a barbell bent over row on my pull sessions, and I do that as the first movement when I'm fresh, allows me to pull as much weight as possible. Then after that, everything is chest supported. Chest supported, why? Because then it improves the stability profile of the movement in saying that in a way that I am quite stable and have a surface to drive into. When you have a surface to drive into, it's easy to elicit output out of the target muscle. So say if I'm doing a prone chest supported row, the fact that I'm driving my chest, my ribcage into the bench and my feet into the floor creates counterforce. Now, as a result of that counterforce, which is just pure physics, simple physics, now I can elicit an output from a back because of the agonist antagonist relationship between my chest and my back.
Yeah, same thing with like preacher curls and stuff like that.
Yeah, with preacher curls, you have to do the harder you drive the elbow into the pad, the more, even without a weight, you'll feel your bicep flexing because once again, you got that relationship on there. If you're on, what else? Like if you're pressing, then you think of your shoulder blades and your traps tucked in and you're driving those into the bench and just as a result, then, you have your chest producing a lot of output.
Yeah, like it kind of bothers me when people like they make it sound like you're lazier because you're doing the chest supported or you're it's not only doing it chest supported. It's just a lot of it is chest supported, you know? Why? Because they're not looking at the aspects of it, what you're trying to accomplish, which is like I'm trying to take the muscle to failure. I'm trying to reach a place of damage, and I don't want to have to think about too many other things. So it's like I noticed like you do a lot of what's that machine there for the squats? It's the pendulum squats, yeah. Pendulums, hacks, like these all like fall into that category of like lifts that have a really good stability profile. And yeah, like these like
And you can just work, you're just accurate then. You can just focus on effort. Because like when you do a barbell squat, you have to factor in, you need external stability and internal stability. Now, that's why the free movements are more challenging, you know, but more challenging doesn't mean that you're getting better results. It's just challenging, that's all it is. The pendulum can be just as challenging, but you know, obviously externally, you got things that you can push against. You can push against the handle, drive your hips against the back pad, and drive your feet against the plate pad. But you still need to really push the load. You know what I mean? So it's just a case of having very less to think of for the effort that the pendulum still demands. It's massive.
yeah, so if anything, it's less lazy because now it's like you could put more effort in the muscle, you know? So let's dive into lat training because there seems to be like this big thing in the bodybuilding community. Like, look, you got to hit all the fibers. Like, you got to hit like the thoracic, lumbar, iliac. Like, do you personally pay attention to that? Like, when you're training your lats, are you going to? It's like, okay, I gotta like iliac, lumbar, thoracic. Are you thinking about that, or do you just like, are you just the kind of guy?
And for me, I'm training the lat, and I look at principles of training the lat, which the first thing I look at is my grip, and I want my grip in a neutral position, or a semi-supinated position, or a fully supinated. Now, I don't have the mobility to stay
Right.
fully supinated, so I stay a bit semi-supinated. The handles that I use, I don't like them being fixed because it fixes the wrist and it restricts you then from a mobility standpoint. So I use like rotator handles from Prime, D handles, and that way then you have freedom to then get that grip where to the sweet spot. That other way, I think of where my elbow's traveling to. Do you know what I mean? Then it's just a case of aligning my elbow down towards my hip and tucked in. So when I'm training clients, the key for training lats is elbow down and around because like that's how the fibers sort of run around to attach into your spine. So I just follow that more than anything. And if I'm then training upper back, then my elbows go out and behind because they got this capillary traction.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. So upper back capillary traction, training the lat, and the elbow down and around because then at that point, it's just a case of setup as well. You look at the machine you are in, you make sure the seat is set up right for your mechanics. You make sure you've aligned yourself right for the line of force. And then once you're aligned, you're stable, then it's just a case of putting effort in, you know, adding load and putting effort in. And it's as simple as that for me. But by the time I've gone through all my movements, I guarantee you my whole back is fried. So I'll start with a bent over row, which is sort of upper back. The angle that I take on a bent over row, which is another obviously a topic of debate. Mine is a take at 45-degree angle. So like I'd be on a chair on a T-bar row, the same angle you have a T-bar row. I'll hold the angle and do my bent over row. So you know you have upper traps, lower traps, upper back, mid back, everything else that's going in the upper back musculature. Finish that. I'd go into a seated prone.
Yeah.
Pull down. I do that, which is lat focused. it biceps the lat. I try and fully shorten the lat and hold that contraction for a split second. At the point where I go up, I don't fully lengthen the lat. I just focus on shortening it, because on this movement, my goal is to fully shorten the lat. The next machine I'm going to go into is the prime prone row. Yeah, I'm going to hit the lat unilaterally, so single arm. At that point, I will fully hit the lengthen. So as I'm going down, I'll really extend my rib cage forward to reach as far forward as possible and start rolling from there. Once again, the cues are the same here. My elbows stay tucked in close to my torso, but the elbows go back towards the pocket.
Right.
So that will be single arm. I'll load the first set in the middle pin, which hits the mid-range of the lat. That will challenge the mid-range of the lat. And then once that's fatigued, I'll shift all the load to the top pin, and that then will be very heavy at the bottom, right?
Right.
But that's where we're all strong on the row. And then as I pull the weight up, the weight will drop off, and it will match the profile of my back, because we're all weak as we come up. So loading the part at the top will match the profile of my back, and then I just get to really exhaust the lat. After that, I'll probably use the same machine. I'll leave the load at the top, use the same machine, but now bilateral, elbows flared out, looking for scapular retraction, and I'll hit the same, I'll hit upper back. With that, take one set there, take one set on a lat pull down with a wide grip.
Yeah.
And that's me done. Going to rear delts, I hit some rear delts from a cable, with the rotator handles and some biceps, and that's me absolutely fried my back.
That's what's nice about those prime rows, man. You could really adjust like the resistance profile on that.
Yeah,
nice. It's funny because I was watching like your old, really scrolling through your old posts, man. I noticed you used to do rows that I recommend, which is like the just the incline dumbbell, and you just go on an incline bench and just grab heavy dumbbells and just roll like bilaterally like that. And I noticed like, as like the years went on, you started going more away from that and more onto like the prime stuff, like. But
yeah, because like it's a multitude of reasons. Yeah, you see, part of it's just being efficient, but there's also like, at my facility we have fat grip dumbbells, and they're just not the best to train with because they limit your grip. So you're not in a very strong position if you can't really close your gate, which is the ability of you to go from finger to finger. So then you're almost like this. So it leaves you in a disadvantage. So over time, obviously, not only were they not heavy enough for me, I just moved over to machines, because then they've got a lot more options in terms of loading. You can tinker with that, and then sort of match things and set, that they can meet other goals.
I think it was a video of you in Cuba where he's talking about like cues for rear delts, like for rear delt rows. And when you were saying using the cable, I'm assuming you're talking about a rear delt row. And you're saying in the video how the way he initiates like a rear delt row is like it's kind of like a partial row where he doesn't go to the full scapular retraction. He stops short. Is that
He
what
pulls the part? He pulls the part.
Right. But
yeah, so he doesn't pull it back. He pulls it. So you have your grip there, which is just a natural grip, almost like semi-pronated there. It's not over, it's not neutral, it's just there. And then if you drive your elbow back whenever you sat like this, your rear delts are going to come up. If you just drive them in a straight line back, naturally, wherever your elbow's going to go, they'll come back. But you're not pulling it back. It's like opening a window. Do you know what I mean? It's like opening a window. You never, if the window opens from inside, you never pull the window back. You pull it wide, you pull it apart.
And the same thing could apply with dumbbells, I'm assuming, right? Like with that
Yeah,
Q.
100%. Someone asked me that in the recent video of Trained by JP. They said, I don't have these handles that you're using for the rear delts. What can I use? I say you can use the dumbbells. Put a dumbbell on an incline, chest supported. Let your arms move the same way my arms are moving on that cable, and you'll find the rear delts. You know, your arm path is the most important thing when you're doing pulls because it'll dictate a lot of the musculature that's involved.
100%. So you would say like for someone like me who's like, you know, just I'm training a lot more at home with like dumbbells and like once a week go to the gym with I just got dumbbells that go up to like 250. So it's like I'm good with that. Then I go to the gym. I have like SSB, chop bar. I have like different type of like specialties. So I don't have access to like the same type of you know, prime stuff and stuff that nature, but it doesn't really bother me. But like, are you saying that if I hop on like an incline bench, grab 2 dumbbells with like a slight pronated grip, and you cue like opening the window, and like as short of retraction that like the rear delt should really light up?
They should light up, but for you as well, like it's always dependent on the goal. It's like if you go like, oh, you go to the gym maybe twice a week, then you have to prioritize like the back. The back is one of those, like it's the hardest muscle for me to train, the back. That's why they say in bodybuilding, shows are won from the back. And, you know, because it's just very few people with spectacular backs. Do you know what I mean? And now, for me, when it comes to the back, I prefer to use a mixture of barbells and machines, everything. I don't lean towards anything. But for me, if you're asking me about yourself, you know, I could train legs at home, you know, because then, you know, you got a lot of free weights there. But if you're training the back, you want a mixture of intensity in terms of just bar and steel, barbell and plates, but you also need the accuracy that comes from using a machine where you can just sit down, set yourself to a place where everything is right and all you're doing is just focusing on stimulus.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want the gyms to open, man. Like I have access to a place that has specialty bars, but not like all the gyms are closed right now. But obviously,
Oh,
like
yes, I forgot.
that's not
Sorry about that, man.
I do have access to a lot of equipment, but I don't have access to machines like at the moment, you know. But
Yeah.
they should open really soon, anyways. It's not like it's not the end of the world, you know. I'm not gonna make an excuse about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about delts for a sec. Obviously, like I read your post on you know, you want show-stopping delts, pumps in the presses. You know, you still gotta press heavy. You know, you're not gonna get those pumpkin like bowling ball delts by just like doing lateral raises. But like when it comes to the lateral raises, what do you like to cue on that type of stuff?
My biggest cue is to drag the elbows to the side.
It's like just wide, far away from the ears.
So think about dragging something. So you got this can here. Can you see the fancy can here? So this is your elbow. Most people lift the elbow. Assuming this is your elbow and you got the weight, most people lift it. Now focus on dragging it to the side, like that. And then at the end of where you can't drag it anymore, then let it almost form a concave. So the motion is like a concave, as opposed to a straight line lifting from down to up.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you come from down to up, so if you can see me on the screen now, if I pull my elbows from down to up, look at my traps.
Yeah, they jump in more.
Yeah, but if I just drag my elbows to the side, I'm just going. It's higher. Now I'm all the way up. My traps are relaxed, you can see them. They're not up here. So you have to realize that the body is the master of saving energy. So if you don't direct the body on what you want it to do, it will direct you.
That's a good.
Another muscles in.
What about, let's talk about like expanding sets, right? Like, because obviously you're a huge advocate of like high reps, but do you incorporate, for example, any like, rest pause, mechanical drop sets, or just like regular drop sets?
I do. I do, and it's very, very rare, just simply because as I've got stronger, then extending sets is so good, but then it's very, very demanding recovery-wise.
Okay, so you don't need.
So you have to pick your battles very, very carefully. So maybe if I'm doing rear delts, so I've got 2 sets in rear delts. I'll do my first one as a straight set, and my second one, I'll aim to get 12 reps, then take 10 breaths and extend it again. So 10 breaths is 20 seconds.
So,
And
so
then I rest pause. It's a 1-part rest pause.
okay, nice, nice. So you can still use the
Yeah.
same, you can still get the same type of intensity.
Yeah, but it's because it's a rear delt, raw. So it's less taxing as a movement.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I wouldn't do that with a compound movement because as much as I increase the intensity, it come back and bite me on the ass when it comes to recovery.
Let's get into like some mindset stuff. So that's what the people really want to hear. Like, like what I really like when I went on your page is like, I like the focus, like when you go into like those like RDLs, like you look like going to war, man, like goes through your head when you're like trying to hit like a personal best.
It's a lot of different things. Listen, it depends where I am emotionally, but the end of it is I literally visualize how I want to look, and I use a lot of visualization. And like when people go on sets, I've found out that most people just have a vacant mind, really. They just go without thinking about anything and they're just sort of doing the set, which I feel is the reason most people can't take the sets there, because as soon as you do X amount of reps and that muscle starts burning, then all it's doing is reminding you that this is burning so hard and you have to stop, and eventually you stop. But if you occupy your mind, like I go in thinking about what am I going to do? Have I got to breathe here, exhale here, breathe here, exhale here, drive this here, drive that there. I'm also focused on how I want that body part to look if I was on stage. So my mind is occupied with so many things. By the time reality gets me, I'm at the back end of the set.
Right.
So it's just a matter of being present. Like you have people who, just in the rest period on Instagram, just flicking through pictures, and then they'll think, oh, I've had enough rest. Then they'll go and do a set. But it's like, you will not get strong with a mentality like that, because once you start approaching your strength ceiling, then a lot is demanded from you in terms of respecting that load on there, respecting the particular machine you're using. And if you don't, it will bite you back. So this is why a lot of people like you talking about my video, like people only see 40 seconds, do you know what I mean? Or maybe a minute. Most people don't see what happens before that, how hard I'm trying to zone out, how hard I'm trying to wind myself up, and just really, really be in the moment and really think, because these loads are also very dangerous. One wrong move and you're done. Do you know what I mean? So it's just a case of really, really being very present and ensuring that the focus is not even 99.9, is 100%. As the set goes on.
What's your thoughts on people saying, to me, from my personal experience, like, I was telling you about like when I was 230 and stuff like that, I've just been like leading the last couple of years. It's only like really last couple of months that I told myself, look, I'm going to go from 210 to, which is now like the 180s, and now the plan is to 180. So I'm not gonna get on camera here and talk about being shredded because I've never been shredded. But I hear people saying sometimes that, like, you know, nutrition is the hard part. You know, training. They don't say training is the easy part, but they say that nutrition is almost as if it's like harder or something. You know, and I've never been shredded, so I don't know. Maybe you know, I have buddies who have been shredded, and like they said, look, it's tough. Like one of them like passed out. You know, but like in my head, I really do believe that, like, even if I were to go that route, I think that the training is always going to be harder, 100%. What are your thoughts on that? You think that, like, when you're leaning down for like a show or just leaning down in general, you're really getting like those last like couple percentages down? Is that really like that challenging for you? The training is going to be harder, right?
Everything is hard. Food is low. The demands to train are high. So it's just equally is hard. Nothing is easy. Bro, if it was easy, we'd all be getting shredded. You know what I mean? But then it depends on the person. A few people can just eat a cardboard box every day and not battle an eyelid, you know. But still, training is going to be hard because your energy is low and you're being asked to do more than what you have in the tank.
You're right. So I can't even be saying like, okay, nutrition training, when it's like they're like this anyways.
Yeah. They're in tandem. They go together. You can't have one without the other.
If let's say someone just wanted to get shredded just for whatever reason with no training, then obviously it's like, okay, that could be done. But if we're talking about getting shredded and lifting heavy and hitting like, trying to like hold on to
you can't get shredded without lifting heavy because intensity is what will preserve your muscle.
Exactly. So yeah.
So without lifting, you will get skinny. You will lose weight, but you lose a lot of muscle because the body doesn't care that you want to get shredded. The protein, muscle is protein, which is readily available energy. The body's going to use that.
Right.
Instead of using your fat stores.
You're right, man. If it was like, everyone would be shredded. You know?
Yeah, everyone would be shredded, walking around, looking massive. But the difference even on the bodybuilding stage to those who've done it right is the guys who come out right with the right amount of fullness, the right amount of muscularity, but still very thin skin.
Right. So
some people come in over dieted. So, you know, these people, they push the calories too low, or maybe they did too much cardio, and now the physique just wilts away. It looks like a melted candle.
Nothing. So you personally, when you're leaning down, you're really getting down to like those last couple of percentages, what are some strategies you use to not go crazy? Like you rest more, assuming maybe the training.
Say that again.
Like, what are some approaches you use to not go crazy during prep, basically, when on those last couple of weeks, you know, when the calories really get low and that type of stuff?
Bro, the goal keeps you focused.
Right.
The goal is so big. The goal keeps you focused. And once again, like, if people are looking for tips, then my advice is just to be present in the moment. So you wake up, what do you have to do? You have to eat your first meal, right? You eat that. You literally don't think of anything, you just eat that. Finish that, you think, what's next? I've got to go train. You go and train. You know, every set you do, you're just present in that set. You're not thinking about the before, you're not thinking about after. You're just there. Because the present is where we are most powerful, because it's the only place we're in control. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I can't affect that. I don't know I can't affect what's already happened this morning, because it's already happened. So half of us, I think, lose the battle by thinking too far. Oh, I don't feel hungry this week and I've got 4 weeks to go. What am I going to do on the last week? So, well, you got no power in that. So why not just think, what can I do in this present moment to make my life easier, manageable?
I understand. Let's dive into what are some lessons that you've learned from bodybuilding onto life? Like, has it like impacted like your discipline? Like, I'm sure it has, obviously, but like, what are like some life lessons? Like, you know?
Listen, bodybuilding is a metaphor to life. You know, that's one of bodybuilding because it's about discipline. It's about accountability. It's about responsibility. It's about self-awareness. It's about accounting for self. You know, it's about consistency. All these things transfer into life. You know what I mean? And it's just about the process and what the process makes of you, and what you learn about yourself, because you learn about yourself on every single day. Mostly like during a prep, you learn so much about yourself in terms of how you respond to different situations, and you just realize the body just keeps giving. You know, the ability of the body is quite special. You know, the way you can adapt to different situations. Like half the time I look back at my diets, I'm like, I know this. I look at a picture and I think, I know this day. I know how bad I felt. And probably on that day, I was thinking I'll die. And then you just go past it.
Right.
So it makes you very resilient, builds character. All these situations, they build character.
Your tolerance, like stuff that you didn't think was possible, like you look back at it and then you laugh at it, you're like,
yeah, I did that. So guess what that puts in you? It puts in your confidence. The next time you go into it, you think, I've been here. I know it's tough, but I've been here before. And I did it. So I probably can do it again.
what are some things that you would say, like, obviously there's no regrets, but like, you know, everybody has their journey. And what are some things that slow down your progress where you look back and you're like, you know, if I did things a little bit differently?
For me, I can't say anything. If I did things a bit like, the only thing I wish for if I could turn time back is I'd start training earlier, say in my 20s. You know what I mean? Like in my early, like now I'm at the gym and I have 18-year-olds in there who are starting their journey. And I'm just a bit envious of them because it's like at 18 to
Yeah.
about 20, I was in training. I was just chasing girls and, around and, just doing some other stuff. But like now I look at 18 to 20 years old and I envy them because, look, they're training in a facility like I was with first class kit. And there's just a lot of information available.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. These young guys,
Yeah.
they have it all.
Yeah, they have it all. And I keep telling I'm very protective over them. I talk to a lot of people, I talk to on Instagram and just young guys. I'm very protective of their journeys because I'm saying to them, bro, make the right choices now because you could be anything you want to be. You could take your physique anywhere you want to take your physique. Like the variables are just in your control.
100%, man.
Mm.
Yeah, and also they're also in like the information era, so it's like they could really like see like a lot of like other people's mistakes, things not quicker.
That's what I tell them. I speak to them like I'm speaking to a younger version of myself.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, don't do this. I did that. It did not work. Don't do this. I did that. But you can only tell so many people. You know what I mean? But yeah.
And you could spread awareness. I'm working on certain videos where it's like I'm really preaching about certain things I've done I don't recommend. And it's like I tell you one, but I'm showing you the dead ends. I'm showing you how like it's not working in certain paths. And some people they have to learn those things for themselves, just fine.
Yeah,
but we're gonna watch videos like that, they're gonna be like, like I don't want to go through that path that those do. I'm gonna listen to what he's saying. I'm just gonna go an alternative route. Seems more logical.
Yes.
And I didn't have anybody tell me that stuff, so it's like, but I really appreciate the time, Oscar, man. Is there anywhere we could find you? Instagram,
Yes.
like,
Yes, you can find me on Instagram on young_4040. I'm there. I post, it's an account. You've been following me, so it's just random. Wake up one day and I'll just be talking randomly about like mindset stuff. That's the stuff that goes off. The next day, I'd be talking about a lift that I did, and it's just a lot of bodybuilding and life stuff because I'm quite a deep thinker, and it's just I believe most the best project is just up here because like this is where the battle is in your head. And we take it to bed and wake up with it. It's just there with us all day. It never goes away. Constantly challenging us, constantly asking questions. It's like a good example is you saying, "Oh, my weight is 180. 185. I want to go back to 180. I don't want to go to the 230s because like that." Those are the battles that you have in your head because you have narratives and you have conclusions that you've made. And for me, my opinion is once you have narratives and stories and conclusions in your head, you sort of limit your ability massively, So, like my clients advise them to just have an open mind, you know what I mean? Have an open mind, and that way it allows you to flow into the next dimension. But once you have a narrative, it's like you put in a ceiling there, so you can always ever going to go there and come back down because you've told yourself this story. It's like people say, I'm weak. I'm always weak on this exercise. But each time you're saying it, you're almost affirming it to your head. So that's a narrative that you're saying, and you're affirming it to your head. So guess what? When you go to that movement, you're weak. Do you know what I mean? So that internal dialogue becomes very, very important because words can kill, words can give life. You choose.
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Same, man. I'm on the same page, man.
Yeah.
The saying, I'm
So,
not there, you could tell yourself, I'm not there yet. And it completely changes the whole, like, your whole mindset, It's like, you're gonna get there.
yeah, just like it's like you don't even have to say like where is there. It's like if you ask me where I'm going, I don't know. I don't know. No one does. You know what I mean? No
Mhm.
one does. But obviously, because it's social media, the perception, some people look like they know where they're going. Like we don't make the rules. You know what I mean? Like life gives us its own terms of how events unfold. You know what I mean? You might have done everything right, and then in the last minute, boom. So no one, like for me, I say I don't know. I say I'm a fool. Why? If I said I'm a fool, it's because I'm open to learning. I know I can learn a bit more. You know what I mean? But if I say I know anything, then that's me putting a ceiling on myself to never leave my mindset open to listen to someone like you because I know it. Why would I listen to you? Now, what do I miss there? I miss an opportunity to learn if I can listen to what you go say. And we all got stuff that we can learn from each other.
Yeah,
You
got
know
it.
what I mean?
A white belt attitude,
Yeah, just for me, I would say, mate, I don't know. I don't know. Like, where am I going with bodybuilding? Do I know? I don't. What I do know is my goal is bigger than myself. My goal is to affect others positively. Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm on this podcast because I'm living a life of service.
Right.
So my trophies and everything. I remember when I first got into bodybuilding, when I did my first amateur show here, and I won my class. Then I stayed there. Then I competed in overall. I won the overall. I won the whole show, and they gave me a big vase, and, you know, they packed it in a box. I didn't open it for like 4 weeks. Because in the end,
That was the real trophy.
yeah, it doesn't mean much to me. It's just what means more to me is like when people say to me, "Oh, you know, you motivate me, blah blah blah." I've got a question. What would you do in this situation? And I'm like, right, this is it. Or someone says, "Mate, you know the video you dropped on TrainedbyJP. I really like it. I learned a lot, and now for the first time, I can feel my back when I'm training because of the cues that you gave me." I'm like, that's it. That's it. You know, but I would say, you know, fame is not the goal. I don't want to be famous, but, you know, I want to be effective.
Right.
I want to be effective, and that's the priority. But other than that, it's just like you're saying. It's like, I don't know. You know, you wake up and you then keep the promises that you've made for yourself, because in the back of keeping those promises, that's where confidence is built. So when most people say, "Oh, you know, I lack confidence here and there," it's because they didn't keep the promises to themselves. So say, for instance, if you want to train tomorrow, you go have a session, you have to eat all your meals today, you have to drink enough water to stay hydrated, you have to go to bed early. If you do all those things and you manage your stress well on that day, when you go into the gym tomorrow, you have a certain form, you have a certain aura that you're working with, because you're sure you did everything.
Yeah.
You did all the prerequisites to be able to be successful here today. So when you approach that set, you approach it with a different mindset that, you know, you're coming in thinking, I'm coming in to grab this. But if you didn't do all those things, you have that little voice in your head that will remind you. So now what you have is doubt.
Because you didn't put all the odds in your favor.
100%.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate your time, Oscar, man.
No problem, brother. No problem.
Yes, sir, man. Stay in touch.
Yeah, hit me up anytime. Anyone watching, you know, feel free to message me anytime on Instagram. I reply all my messages, you know, so we can have a chat about anything, about training, about mindset. If you need any help, let us know. That's why we're in the industry, just to help, really. So yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and you know, always there if anyone needs anything.
All right, man. Everybody watching up to this point, you guys are the real MVPs, man. Go follow Oscar on IG, link in bio. And yeah, man. Appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Have a lovely day.
Ciao, man.
Ciao, ciao.